test, if you can just respond to that. Okay, we are streaming now live on YouTube. I believe we have a stay tuned graphic, but just so everyone's aware.
Yeah, I just got an alert that you're streaming on YouTube.
Perfect. Technology. Okay, we've got 15 seconds to air, to live. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to LMC Media. I'm Michael Witch, a volunteer at LMC and a board member there. And on the screen with us tonight are the village and town officials and Matt Sullivan, who is the executive director of LMC. It's really wonderful to have the opportunity to meet with our local officials and have your questions answered. And I'd like to start by asking Matt right now, how do people ask a question tonight?
Sure. So thanks, Mike. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And those of you who are watching at home or elsewhere, you can actually send in your questions by emailing lmctv@lmctv.org. We're also live on YouTube, but we're not accepting questions there. We are also live on Facebook Live. So if you post your question on Facebook Live, it can be answered there as well. I also want to take this opportunity just to thank our staff for doing a wonderful job at LMC TV and wish Sean Kelly a very happy birthday, who is here at the town center at our studio, making sure that all of these meetings go out live, including our municipal meetings, as well as the community conversations that we're hosting. So thank you, LMC staff, and thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
So if you don't know them already, Lorraine Walsh is the mayor of the village of Larchmont, and Nancy Seligson is the supervisor of the town of Mamaroneck, and Tom Murphy is the mayor of the village of Mamaroneck. And last week, we started with some statistics, some data, and I'm wondering if you'd like to give us an update.
Sure, we just received information from the county. Each of us receives a daily update regarding the confirmed cases of coronavirus in our respective municipalities. It's highly confidential information because it does provide name and address of the cases. Each of us has signed a non-disclosure agreement so that we won't reveal that, but it's important that we get that information to protect our first responders so they know that when they are going to a home that might have a coronavirus case. And in the case of the town of Mamaroneck, I just saw that we have 73 confirmed cases in the town of Mamaroneck as of today.
And what about the village of Larchmont?
Village of Larchmont, 33 confirmed cases, 1 fatality.
And in the village of Mamaroneck, Mr. Mayor?
I haven't counted the new numbers yet because they don't come in pre-counted. We had 115 yesterday. It looks like we've probably added at least 10. So, you know, but I think what's important to note here also is that the list lags behind. We know there are many, many people who are not on the list who have COVID. We know there are many, many people who have COVID symptoms that can't get a test. So I think it bears repeating that we should treat everybody we come in contact with that they could be a potential vector for COVID. That's why social distancing is so important. And you know, the basic hygiene that we talk about is so important. So, you know, the raw numbers don't tell the whole story. You know, there are a lot of people who have it who aren't on the list. So you should assume that everybody you come in contact with potentially has it.
I'm wondering if we could start tonight on a bit of a positive note. With this crisis, there's a lot of sadness and a lot of sorrow and economic impact on the community and individuals who've lost their jobs. And But there's also been a tremendous outpouring in the community, people who have volunteered, who have donated, who have come up with ingenious ideas for helping their fellow citizens. Do you folks have any that you'd like to highlight?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Tom. We had a student here, a medical student. He graduated from Mamaroneck High School, actually with my kids in 2015. So Matt Rabinowitz, first year medical student, home because of the virus. He started up a volunteer group. He calls it Larchmont Mamaroneck Mutual Aid. And he had, I think, probably over 50 people sign up to volunteer for various reasons. And then he also got a sign-up sheet for people who needed help. And on his own, and I put him in touch with a couple of organizations as well. He now sends out emails, volunteer opportunities daily, packing meals to be distributed, all kinds of opportunities, shuffling materials for the cottage industry of mask sewers that has popped up in the two villages in the town. So that's a really great thing.
Thank you. And I also talked to Matt, and so there's an interview with him on LMC on YouTube that people
Correct.
can watch. Nancy, in the town?
Yeah, in the town, we had a doctor who lives in the town of Mamaroneck who works at the Scarsdale Medical Center contact us and ask us if we would collect masks that she would pick up and bring to White Plains Hospital or use in their center. So we started that 2 weeks ago, and the very first day we collected about 120 masks, which was terrific. We also had outreach from the original civics research class at the high school, and their teacher, Joe Liberti, asking if there was anything that the kids could do because they're so interested in helping as well.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Tom, I know in the village of Mamaroneck, I had a chance to talk to the folks at Inspires Makerspace, and they were retooling to make personal protection equipment, the plastic face masks that they were going to donate. And you have some another example?
Yeah, there is a glaring example of people reaching out and helping those less fortunate. There's a group called the Coalition for Community, and what they did last week, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, last Friday, they arranged to feed folks that would normally be fed through the Larchmont Mamaroneck Hunger Task Force. But we needed a different venue because it wasn't conducive to where it used to be because you couldn't socially distance. So we made arrangements and we did it in Harbor Island Park. And we had one way of access for cars, another way of access for people walking in. And in a very short period of time, they put out the word and made arrangements, and they gave out over 300 bags of groceries. And it was all done very safely, very, with an eye towards social distancing. The clients and the volunteers never actually came in contact with each other. And people were very grateful, and there's going to be more and more need for that. We see today that there's 6 million more unemployed in the past week in the United States of America. A lot of that is happening right here. There's going to be a lot of hunger. Larchmont Mamaroneck, pardon me, Hunger Task Force is going to be doing a food giveaway at Mamaroneck Avenue School in, I think, next week. I don't have the date.
April 21st.
April 21st. A Larchmont trustee, Malcolm Foreman, has been instrumental in putting this together, and I want to thank him. But there's going to be a lot of hunger. And I remember watching TV, the news show, a couple of weeks on CNN, and they had a doctor, and they said to the doctor, well, what's really important now? And it struck me like a bell. He said, what's really important now is that everybody gets enough nutrition.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get enough nutrition, you're more susceptible. And you don't hear that a lot in the United States. And the hunger is kind of downplayed here, but we're going to see more and more of it. And I hope people can.
We do have a question.
Task Force.
Great. We have a question from a viewer specifically asking about how communities are handling Meals on Wheels, and are there ways to sign up for the program if you're a senior in need?
In the town of Mamaroneck, we administer the Meals on Wheels program and the senior programs through community services. Those folks who were signed up for Meals on Wheels are still continuing to get them. We are packaging the meals as separate entities, though, compiled as one meal. So it's in a box and it is delivered to the senior in a box, and we're delivering 2 days of meals at a time. So there's less interaction through that. We also asked the seniors who participate in the senior center and all the programs whether they would need that kind of assistance as well during this time. So several of them have signed up as well. But if a senior is in need, they certainly should call Anna Denoy in the town of Mamaroneck, but they can call my office at 381-7805 and we can help them.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. One other question is, can I donate to a fund for individuals or families in need? Is there such a fund in our community?
Well, I think what I mentioned before, the Largemont Mamaroneck Hunger Task Force, they are a 501c3 and they need their funds replenished right now. Community Resource Center is always reaching out to help families with rent, help families with different situations. So those are two right off the top of my head that I would ask people to consider donating to.
I would add the Community Counseling Center because they're providing additional services, counseling services for people because this is a very stressful time for a lot of folks and families. So that would be a really good cause as well.
Great.
When I look, Matt, you had another question?
Yeah, another question just came in. What did the police do to, what are police doing to enforce the 6-foot social distancing? This viewer claims that he's seeing people paying no attention to the 6 feet when their dogs are playing together, and lists young college students riding with friends who do not live in the same household.
Well, we're asking the police to approach these folks and remind them that it is important and it is the law of the land now that we keep the social distance of at least 6 feet. So we are not issuing violations yet. We are not issuing tickets. We're not arresting anyone, but we certainly are asking the police to circulate throughout the community. And if they see that, remind folks that that is not acceptable.
You know, and the reports I get back from the village police department is that when they do approach somebody or a group of people and say, hey, you know, you got to really separate. A lot of times people will say, oh, geez, I'm sorry. And, you know, it just sometimes we do it out of habit. And, you know, we're in the process of forming new habits now that we're going to need for, you know, an extended period of time. So, you know, right now, you know, we're working on persuasion. As Nancy said, the police departments are doing that. I think all of us, when we do our outreach to the community, are constantly talking about social distancing. You know, you see it on all the outlets on television too, and in the print media. So I think, you know, it's gotten much better. And I have, you know, walked down streets and where I would go to the right and that person would go to the right, and just almost naturally now. So I think we have to commend people who are working hard at it. Is it perfect? No, but it'll get better, and it has gotten much better.
Well, last week, your message to viewers was stay at home, save a life, and keep your social distance. Is that the same message that you want to communicate this week?
Yes, everyone, let's say yes together.
Yes. Without a doubt.
Yes. In fact, I just put it, oh, go ahead, Lorraine.
I know, I was just going to say, I would like to add though, for anyone who does need to go outside for whatever reason, I think it's become clear that covering your mouth and nose is certainly not harmful, and I think it's probably helpful. So I have been putting out the message as well that everyone should cover their face in some way. I went to DeChico's today to do some shopping. Everyone there had a face mask on. but people are not really wearing them when they're going out walking in the park. And I think it's probably just better if we all got in the habit for the next few months.
And if nothing else, it keeps you from touching your face, which is important.
Yeah, it reminds you.
Right.
It's
There,
Go on, Matt.
Mike, there are questions here from viewers about how the municipalities are helping small businesses.
Good, important.
So I have been in constant contact with the Larchmont Chamber of Commerce, sharing with them all information that I've gotten on the PPP and the EIDL cash advance and unemployment insurance. I've also signed up to be trained as a volunteer by Westchester County so that I can counsel small business owners who are in the process of doing the application. And that should start next week. And lastly, I've been working with a local bank branch manager to potentially put together a video tutorial that may actually be on LMC TV. I spoke with Matt briefly about it to give a little walkthrough for small business owners, because it can be a little daunting for some of our small business owners to be dealing with the strife and the worry, and also having to try to figure out how to navigate their way through this system.
And we'd still love to do that, Lorraine. So we look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Lorraine, the initials that you mentioned, these are the new federal grant programs, or the loan?
Right, sorry, yeah. PPP is the Paycheck Protection Program, and that is a loan that's backed by the SBA, but small businesses apply directly to their own lending institution. They're loans, but they become grants if the business meets certain requirements, like uses the money for payroll, for rent, for utilities, etc.
Mhm.
And the EIDL is an emergency loan that you apply for directly through the SBA, and you can get up to a $10,000 cash advance. As soon as you've completed a successful application, the money should come fairly quickly, and that advance will be forgiven.
Are these loans available to nonprofit organizations as well?
They are also available to nonprofits, and they're also available to self-employed individuals who meet certain criteria, but yes. Mm-hmm.
We learned today also that there is an extra almost $2 million that is coming to the county and can be used to help small businesses through the Urban County Council, which is part of the Community Development Block Grant effort. And all the municipalities are familiar with it that participate in it. And so this could be an additional source of small loans, as Lorraine mentioned, that could really help a small business, hold on through this period of time and survive.
And how is that application made?
Well, we're still waiting for HUD to come up with the exact application, but it was the initial information that there will be some additional funds, which was a positive sign.
And you know what I'd like to say to people watching at home, if you have a favorite local restaurant and they're still open and they're doing takeout and they're doing delivery, please patronize them, because they're trying to hang on. They're trying to keep some people working. And for those of us who are blessed to still be working with to have ample means, we have to do our share to help out, to keep these businesses afloat and to help those that need a helping hand in these trying times.
I'd like to just mention the website. I believe that you interviewed Ed, Ed,
Yeah.
on the program. It's 1lm.org.
Right.
So ONELM.org, which lists many businesses in Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and allows people to link to their websites. You can order online. I ordered books from Anderson's this past week. She called me, we went to the door, took them, perfect.
That's
So
great.
it's not just restaurants. You can still do business with a lot of our small businesses through online, email, telephone.
Absolutely. There's another question that came in from a longtime town and village resident. She's a senior citizen who shops locally, and in each of the stores that she's been to, except for one, she's noticed that many precautions have been taken, including plexiglass dividers, masks, and gloves. However, yesterday when she was in a liquor store, no one had on gloves or masks, and both the cashier and manager said that, quote, they didn't want to, or that, quote, they weren't necessary. Her understanding is that Governor Cuomo has made it mandatory with fines imposed. She'd like to know if liquor stores are exempt and if she understands this properly.
I don't know whether there's an exemption for liquor stores. That's something we could look at. But I would advise her in that situation to not patronize that liquor store again if she feels that they're operating in an unsafe manner. I don't know. That's a good question about liquor stores, but I would think that anyone who is coming into contact with a customer should have some sort of protection, some sort of kind of a shield between the customer and the worker in this day and age. And I understand her trepidation. That would make me feel uncomfortable too. But we'll look at that, you know, and I'll have them ask the Department of Health that question.
I think it does fall to the Department of Health, though, in terms of
Yes.
jurisdiction. But we can certainly suggest to the store owners, ask them what precautions they're taking and suggest that, you know, we'd like to see that and that it really is what the public is expecting at this point.
Right. I mean, a week and a half ago, CVS on Chatsworth Avenue, I was getting some complaints that it was overcrowded and, you know, people were very close together. So our code enforcement officer went over, spoke with the manager, and now they've got, you know, lines like every other place, arrows in the aisles and lines on the floor for lining up. And it's definitely improved.
Right.
You can always do that.
Last week there was a question about the county, a proposal to postpone tax collection.
Yes.
And you said it needed action from the legislature. Any update on that?
Yes, there is an update. Thanks for asking that. The town supervisors throughout the county gathered together after our last interview last week and made a suggestion to the Board of Legislators and the county executive to consider legislation that would dramatically decrease the penalties for paying late, so that it would actually almost not even matter if you paid late because it would be so diminished. And it seems that the Board of Legislators has agreed to consider that as legislation. They will be introducing it on April 14th. And there will be a public hearing that will stay open for 3 days, because since there are no longer in-person public hearings, people are going to have to comment on it through email or mail. So we're hoping, and they expect, they said, to vote on it April 17th. This will allow people, if they need to pay later and incur a very, very small penalty compared to what the normal penalty rates are, which are set by the state and county. The towns don't have the jurisdiction or the legal ability to change those.
I have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have another question from a viewer that just came in. Should one wipe the prepackaged groceries with disinfectant?
I've seen YouTube videos on that. And some people are suggesting that that's a precaution, that it's not absolutely necessary because the virus doesn't last long on packaged materials. But do any of you have other suggestions?
Yeah, I have seen news reports about that too. And I don't know if anyone's ever gotten COVID from an item from a grocery store, but honestly, if it makes people feel more comfortable, yes, do it. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of anxiety right now. And if you can take an action that makes you feel more comfortable in your home, then take it. You know, it's like chicken soup. It's not going to hurt.
And I remember Lorraine's strategy about dealing with mail.
Right. I was just thinking about that because, we had an issue with an employee at the post office. And so it came up, and we got some interesting information from a hospital in New Jersey. So we take our mail in, we leave it on a bench by the front door, and we don't open it till the next day. That said, I went to the store today and I brought home food and I opened the package right away. So I'm like I think Tom's right. Some of us, you feel a lack of control and agency with this situation, and anything that you can do to exert control on your environment might make you feel better. So do it.
You got plenty of time.
I'll just add that I don't wipe things down from the supermarket, but I certainly wash my hands continually while I'm handling that material, and before and after.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there any update on testing? The governor was on television today and talked about antibody testing. Is that new? A new kind of test?
Well, I don't think antibody tests are new tests. I think they've been around for, decades.
But for this
I think
particular virus?
For this virus.
Yeah, I think they're trying to develop one specifically for this virus. And I think the governor's right. We really can't get back to normal until we know who has had the virus and who's still susceptible.
Right.
I'm hoping that there's, a herd protection, and that, a lot of people have had it, didn't know they had it, but have the antibodies. And if you have 50% of the population that has the antibodies, then you're in good shape. Then you're less susceptible to another epidemic.
Some people out there think that this illness strikes mainly old folks, but I have personal experience of a young girl, 13 years old, who suddenly lost a sense of taste and smell, and was tested and was positive.
Yeah.
And help.
I think that's a misconception.
Yeah,
it is a misconception.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that is a misconception. I think that older people are more at risk of having severe consequences from it. But certainly everyone, any age, everything, good health or not, is susceptible to it. And it does seem like it comes in different forces as well for different people. So I think everyone's got to be very, very careful about it.
And I think what Mike just pointed out is an important fact, because you have a 13-year-old girl, and she doesn't feel any real symptoms. She just has a loss of smell.
Yeah.
And maybe she doesn't realize, and I'm not pointing her out, but a person that age doesn't realize that they're being a vector. And, they're going out and they're spreading the virus while they're not getting the symptoms. Someone my age or, someone older would get very sick from just being exposed to her.
Right. Lorraine, we have a question if there are any updates on the Village of Larchmont elections.
Well, they were postponed originally to April 28th. And then they've been postponed until some date after June 1st. And right now, that's all the information we have. We expect that they might be placed at the same day as the primary, June 23rd, but we don't have any confirmation of that date just yet.
Thank you.
As we get closer to our 30-minute time limit here, I'd like to ask each of you if you have any last words for the people who are watching.
Ladies?
Happy to just say, please, folks, take it very seriously. We had some good news today that we could see the flattening of the curve for the cases. Let's keep up the good work. Really take it seriously. Keep your social distance. Stay home. Avoid gatherings. We're going to get through this together.
I'll echo that sentiment. I know that we're tempted and eager to go back to our lives. But the more we can stay home and follow the rules, the faster and the more positively that actually will happen. If we rush it, we're just going to bounce right back, and we'll be stuck in our houses for way too long.
Right. You know, and I just want to wish everyone watching a happy Passover and a happy Easter. You know, I know this is a different Eastern Passover because so many of us can't be with our loved ones. But and it's time for reflection and to reach out to our loved ones and to, you know, tell them how much they do mean to us and care about, you know, how much we care about them. Because just because we're socially distant, I think it's a time to try and be emotionally more connected, because, you know, what this has taught us is how dependent we are on each other and how much our relationships really mean. Because at the end of the day, you know, nobody's worried about, you know, their car. Nobody's worried about, you know, the mundane things in lives that sometimes we all put so much emphasis on. You're worried about your family. You're worried about your kids. You're worried about your mom and dad. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. And, you know, as long as we keep that in focus, we're going to get through this, as the lady said. And I think hopefully this will be a situation that makes us a stronger community and a stronger nation.
Folks, can we look forward to having you on again live next Thursday?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
Thank you for taking the time. And Matt, can you give us a preview of anything LMC is preparing for next week?
Absolutely, Mike. You know, this is part of what we're deeming community conversations. We'll have these conversations with our local elected officials on Thursdays at 7:30. Viewers can also tune in other days or also watch on our YouTube or watch online. Monday, we have wewillprovide.com, which is another excellent resource trying to help businesses and also give back to those who are on the front lines, the doctors and nurses over at White Plains Hospital. We have Tuesday couples counseling during quarantine. And on Wednesday, we have students and sustainability. So certainly quite a few topics, and you can go on our YouTube again and watch the older archived versions of these conversations. And I'd just like to echo Mike's sentiment and say thank you all for being here with us. And thank you to the LMC staff who's worked hard as well throughout this process.
And
Thank you
people
for
can
having us.
still ask questions, right? They can still send questions to LMC
Correct.
TV.
Right. So as long as they send those questions in, we will ask them. They can do it throughout the week, or they can send it the night of the show. So lmctv@lmctv.org.
Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.